हमारे से धोखाधड़ी हो रही है।
When you walk into a bank branch, they jump on you as if they're hungry dogs.
मुझे कुछ रूम में पकड़ के 3-4 जन करके हमेशा बोलते थे पहले पॉलिसी निकालो।
और उनसे शपथ टाइप की ली जाती है कि आज मैं 10 पॉलिसी करूंगा।
जो सेविंग किया था मैंने एकदम चला गया।
The Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sound of Money. It's an amazing episode. I absolutely promise you that. One that is going to touch your hearts, and more importantly, one that you're going to say, hey, did I come across this situation, a bank branch or some agent coming to me and talking to me? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And it's all about something called mis-selling. A kind of a taboo kind of a thing, which is not talked about, but there's somebody and someone, and there are these two extremely wonderful people joining me on the podcast who have made that attempt to talk about it and discuss about it. So Kanan, actually, he's the founder of FinGrowth Media. He's a chartered accountant and now a very proud documentary filmmaker with Missold. And of course, joining him is Batul Kapasi. She's the head of video production with One Finance. And of course, she's also done tons of documentary as a part of her profession and career. Hi, Kanan and Batul. Welcome to The Sound of Money.
Hi, Santosh. Pleasure to be here.
Hi, Santosh.
Most welcome. You know, the one thing that comes in mind, I saw this documentary twice as of now, but I'm going to watch this a lot more. There's a reason for that. There are certain nuances that you have captured in this documentary which nobody has ever seen, talked about, or even experienced. And I think that's what your reach is all about, right? First, let's talk about why did this whole idea of this mis-selling, mis-sold as a documentary germinate? Maybe we start from there, and maybe Kanan, over to you.
Sure. So I had my first encounter with mis-selling in 2021 when I went to the bank branch and they tried to sell me an insurance policy without even understanding my suitability. So I was working in a big four company at that time, but I had almost, quit because I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship. So what happens with entrepreneurship is that you do not have regular cash flows, right?
Yeah.
So how are you asking a 23-year-old, 24-year-old to purchase an insurance policy where you have to pay 8 to 10 years of premium consistently worth 1.5 lakh rupees for the ATC thing?
Yeah.
Without even asking them about their financial goals or financial needs, right? And if I purchased that policy and if I weren't able to pay it in the second year or the third year, then all my money would have gone to surrenders, right? Like
Sure.
I would not have gotten any money back in the second year or the third year. I would have lost my money. And thankfully, I came from background where my father taught me about all of these things very early on in life. And they were like, bank se koi product nahi lena. All of these products are mostly useless. That's exactly the word that he told me. So of course I was like, okay, IRR bataiye iska and all of those things. Even if I would have consistently stayed on in that policy, I would have still made 5.8%.
Yeah.
5.8% for a person who doesn't need it, right? PPF in itself, if I have to stay long, I would rather stay long in a PPF product or an EPF product, right? That was my first encounter. Second was that when I pursued entrepreneurship, a fraud happened to me. And then I saw fraud being, conducted at a large scale by financial institutions to my clients when I was running my practice as a financial advisor in some or the other capacity. So I could see that it was happening at scale, and I felt so helpless that I could not do anything about it. So I started writing about it, and then one thing led to another, and here we are.
Yeah.
And I decided that it needs to be told to millions of people. And thankfully, I got a great partner in the form of Batul and One Finance, of course, who funded this project and the researches that we have done in the past. So yes, that's about it.
Wonderful. So Batul, as he rightly said, a perfect partner, because when you watch the documentary, and the storytelling is extremely important, right? It's a very technical subject if you look at it, because that's the reason why these people are getting the frauds are all happening, cheating, to be brutally honest. The storyline, see, the story is one thing, but the storyline, how you narrate on the screen, is important. And you especially have done a fab job when it comes to the video production piece of it, right? Tell me your experiences. I'm sure you too have had similar experiences, and then you kind of weave this whole story into something so amazing.
No, so when sort of Kanan came to me with this report that he worked on exactly a year back, and just some days before we saw the report again, right? I told him that something like this has happened with me too, and then he immediately emphasized on how rampant this is everywhere. This keeps happening, and then people don't even know that this is mis-selling. Like they think that this is regular scheduled programming. This is something that is normal. It is normalized to that extent, and when that report came in, when I saw the numbers and when he sort of explained that to me, it became a very interesting topic because India, right, or worldwide, cinema is a reflection of society, and society is a reflection of cinema, correct? And with an issue like this, it was very important to sort of go to the ground level and let the case studies talk about it. Because when you have the pain of the people, when you have captured the pressure of the RMs, and when you have objective solutions given by experts presented on screen, the impact goes to another level. And with the current scenario that our country is in, right? Videos, films, or content creation is at the peak. So it just felt right to choose this medium, to tell our research. And a lot of people think that, research is just on reports, but actually documentary is research. Going there, talking to people and documenting their interviews is part of the research. And like you said, right, the question that you asked me about storytelling, I asked myself, what is mis-selling before we started making this? So it was extremely crucial to break down these technical jargons that were there and present it with data and back it with stories, so that there is that sort of context setting that happens to the people. There is character establishment of each person, so it's easier for the person who's watching it to relate with it. It's an experience that we have captured in the documentary that we went through. Like, for example, I'll talk about the graph of the storytelling. Every case study we have gone to, or every person we have met, right, the first thing they say that it's the RM, the RM does the best selling. It's because of the RM that this is happening. And this is something very persistent in the documentary also for the first half. But people are bashing RMs. People are saying that they are the culprits, they are the praise, they are the vultures. But then when you look deeper, are they? That's something that was very, very important for us to establish, because as documentary filmmakers, you need to be objective. You need to also tell their side. And that is why we went and spoke to the RMs about it. And then when you immediately hear the side of
They're
the
part of the story,
and everything changes, everything shifts. And that graph that we wanted to create, right, throughout the documentary, that people sort of make them as villains, but when you hear their side, you would empathize with them. And then obviously comes the end section where all the context setting is done, where all the case studies are highlighted. There was this one thing that was very important, that we would go across the country and we would shoot it in different places with different age groups and different professions, right? So eventually in the end, when the context was set, the solutions were very important to us to be given. And that's why all sides of the coins were sort of documented. And also another thing that I would like to mention was over the course of the journey for us, nothing was, you cannot script a document.
Yeah.
You can't write, you can't put it on paper initially and then say that this is how it is going to. You can only make an outline, and then over the course, the experiences that you have, you take those experiences and try to put it in a storytelling format that resonates with people.
Agree. Absolutely. So, Kanan, when it came, I'm sure there was that question, where do I begin? Because it's a complex issue, right? It's not easy. And as Batul too said, it's about cities and villages and towns where this is absolutely, rather in the town, at least cities, some level of awareness possibly is there, right? Just like your father advised you. But towns
Yes.
and villages, it must be a crazy thing, because it's not just to the customers. Even the bank branch staff, they are having new branches and the pressure is immense. So how did where do you begin kind of thing start off?
So, of course, it involved a great level of commitment and grit to convince people to come on camera and tell their side of story.
Yeah.
I told people whom I already knew from my experience, that I'm going to start something of this sort. So please take out some time to be on the camera. And they were like, no, we are good. We don't want to name any banks or insurance
Yeah.
companies. I said that we are anyway not going to do that. Even if you take it, we are going to mask it, because we don't want to resort to name calling because it's a systemic issue. It's not a bank specific or an insurance specific issue.
Yeah.
That was the first hurdle. Second was, of course, why would anyone want to be on a documentary for no reason and pick fights? But then these people also understood that it happened to them. They were frustrated, and not just frustrated, I would say that they also empathized when I told them, this is happening rampantly across the country. And this story needs to be told to millions of Indians, probably a billion.
Yeah.
Because if you don't voice out your opinion now, it will keep on happening. And that's why I think they agreed one after the other. And honestly, I'll tell you, we got lucky that we got so many. Some dropped off, of course. Some even after the recording, they said that, no, this should not go live. And we were very, feeling very low at that time, both of us. Yeah, everything happened, right? It was a very tough process, but honestly, I think this had to happen. This documentary had to come out. The stars aligned.
True.
Honestly, like I did not even know what research was a couple of years back. Doing a survey a couple of years back, I did not know S of surveys, right? Similarly, with documentary filmmaking as well. For Batul, it would be finance. Like we are completely new to this world, but the cause is that we have seen mis-selling happening to ourselves, frauds happening to ourselves so closely that we were here. We were involved in the making of this film no matter what. So I've worked with other DOPs as well, and honestly, I am the one pushing them ki aise karo, waise karo. But with Batul, it was like, please, bas kar do, back up. We need to go. She was so involved, and honestly, like I said, now I understood her perspective, like why she took more time in shooting, and understanding stories of the victims so well, because it has come out that way.
Absolutely.
So honestly, I think it was stars aligning. This had to happen, and we are just the mediums.
True.
It just happened, yeah.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Can't agree more, Kanan. From a video production standpoint, it's to the T. Huge contribution in terms of that storytelling, as I was mentioned. So Batul, you guys met if I quote unquote say, the victims of these frauds, right? See, there's one thing coming on the camera and talking about it, but you guys have actually met them behind the scenes and even convincing them, talking to them. It must have been quite an emotional journey of theirs, right? And financial savings lost, especially the retirees, and more importantly, widows and people who really are literally scapegoats. How was that experience, Batul?
Honestly, when you are behind the scenes, right? There is always that, we need to shoot this. There is this professional work ethic that we need to account. And then there is another human emotional side. And especially with documentaries, right? we need to have a lot of empathy, and that just naturally comes out. You go to somebody's house, they make you sit there, and then they speak to you about something that has happened with them, because of which they lost all their hard-earned savings, right? I remember, because you mentioned this, right? One of our stories, Mr. Avasthi, we went to his house, and before shooting, right? One day before, you go to the place to do a recce, so that you can map out cameras, and then you can select where you want to shoot it. We went there, and I remember he was sleeping on that day, and I looked at him from far, and his son, Mr. Amit, he said that, try not to speak with him, because, and we were like, yes, absolutely, we cannot bring back any traumatic memories for them. And then cut to the next day, we spoke to Amit after that. This man who's, on bed, he is going through so many issues in his life, health problems, and lost all his savings, but so joyous, right? He was waiting for his granddaughter to arrive. He was treating us so nicely. Uh, in the beginning, there's like a short montage that we have put, because we wanted to sort of
Capture that.
establish his character, because he was singing songs with us. I mean, if you see the behind the scenes footage, he's literally singing old Hindi songs with us, talking to us, and he was so welcoming. And I remember we did not push him at all. Kanan and I were sitting in this one corner. Mr. Awasthi, the son, he was in another corner, and my DOP, he was behind me, and we were just talking, and there was this one pause he took, and that's where he felt comfortable enough to share his story, and he spoke with his heart then. And that is when then he tells us, that he lost all his money and what happened. And then there was, this section is of around 8 minutes in total, behind the scenes in the raw footage. And for 3 minutes, me, Kanan, Mr. Amit, we were just sitting in silence. Total silence. Because and at that point, right, Santosh, we were not documentary filmmakers, creators, researchers. We were just humans trying to listen to this war veteran old man telling his side of story, that he has lost all his money that he earned fighting wars for the country because of mis-selling, right? And at that point, we were just humans. And I remember everybody in the room had tears, because you feel so helpless, right? What can you do to help this person? Saying something like this. Similarly, when we went to the village, the villages are not even able to explain what has happened to them.
Exactly.
Imagine, we are telling them that this is what has happened, and they are like, how can it happen? How could the banks do that to us? And they're not able to like put it in words, that what kind of mis-selling happened to them, how much money was lost. They don't know the fine print, they don't know the details. And that's really sad, right? That somebody who is lost their hard-earned money doesn't know how they lost it also.
Absolutely.
So, like as documentary filmmakers, for us, behind the scene experience, we had some 50-55 hours of footage. We had to keep going through that scene again and again, because then you have to watch all this footage, right? And you have to pick out specific segments and add it to your storyline to make it relevant again. You can't just take something, make it dramatic. That's not the objective. The objective is to each piece, each minute that the documentary has, it has some purpose. And for us, it was extremely crucial to deal with a lot of empathy with all of the case studies, because we are documentary filmmakers later, but humans first.
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. What you showed, Mr. Avasthi, who's gone through that painful journey. There are lots and lots of Mr. Avasthis around in this country who are suffering, and they have possibly even worse stories to share, right? And that's what happens, right, Kanan and Batul. We walk into this bank branch, and a bank is all about trust. And that's what gets eroded, right? And unfortunately, the widows, these defense guys, the NRIs who have a week of time to spend in that entire year in India, and many others like us just get completely ripped apart, as I would say. So, Kanan, how has been the feedback? I mean, I'm sure it's been tremendous. At least as somebody who went and spoke openly about it, maybe you can share what's been the feedback so far.
So it's everybody's story, honestly, Santosh. It's not happening to 1 in 2 people. It's happening to 2 in 2 people. Exactly, right?
Absolutely.
I won't even say it's 90% are exposed to it. Almost
All.
100% have had some or the other kind of at least a mis-selling attempt happen to them. Uh, even when we did a special screening at PVR a few days back, we had product manufacturers, advisors, top journalists, some customers of Fund Finance, and the top finance influencers coming in. Some people messaged me after the event, and some people were telling me over there, पता था मिस सेलिंग होती है, इतनी होती है, हमें भी नहीं पता था, और मुझे तो पता ही नहीं था, ये तो मेरे साथ भी हुआ है, तो मेरे साथ भी मिस सेलिंग हो रखी है. So it's so common. People sitting on my left, the person sitting on my left side, ये मेरे साथ भी हुआ था, ये मेरे चाचा के साथ भी हुआ था. The person sitting on my right said a similar thing. So it's everybody's experience, as Monica says in the film. It is not the experience of 95% people. Someone or the other, like, has tried to mis-sell a financial product to them. It's rampant. It's happening at a huge scale, and that is why we have gotten the kind of traction we have gotten so far. Honestly, we have a long way to go. We have to educate, like I said, 1 billion people, and this is just the first step in that direction. Maybe let's see where it goes. But again, like I said, this is a systemic problem which needs to be fixed.
Absolutely. So, look at it. If you look at it beyond the bank branch, beyond the RMs, then it's the role of the regulator, the Reserve Bank or the IRDA or whichever that regulator is. But there has been, they do have the powers, but probably the power to bite hasn't yet started. And that's where, Monica Halan has been very vehemently, very strongly trying to talk about it. In fact, I read one of her posts where she has reposted about this documentary, and she's tagged the finance minister and the Reserve Bank of India, and she's very, very brutal. She says this is not about a fraud, it's very clearly cheating, right? So did you get a sense of it from the feedback that it received, that it is reaching up to the right regulators, and you see somewhere this eventually leading up to some kind of a solution in that sense?
So, like, speaking of the regulator, the RBI in this case has been one of the finest banking regulators in the entire world. And the former RBI governor, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, also received an award for being the best central bank governor. Right. So credits to them, nothing to take away from the kind of work they've done. Probably we are having this podcast because the banking system exists in the first place. So again, like, I would like to reiterate, we are not here to discredit the banks or the regulators or the insurers for the great work that they've done in terms of financial inclusion. Just that this is one small part which we feel is being overlooked. And this is becoming rampant because of the revenue-driven culture at banks, which is, eventually passed on to the smallest of employee in the hierarchy, in the lowest of hierarchies, and they're told to sell financial products at any cost to customers. A survey found 58% of bank RMs say that they're told to sell at any cost, even if the product is not suitable for the customer. So that's one. Second is, whether do they know about suitability in the first place or not? That's also very questionable. And I won't say it's questionable. It is pretty black and white that they don't know. Even a survey, like all of us knew before our survey came, that bank RMs do not know stuff about the financial products they sell. Our survey gave a number to it, and even I was shocked. while I was myself taking a few surveys, bank RMs, when asked about what is the difference between a regular and a direct mutual fund scheme, they said regular वो होता है जिसमें हर महीने पैसा कटता है, and direct वो होता है जिसमें एक बार पैसा जाता है. I mean, they were telling the difference between a lump sum and an SIP and confusing it with regular and direct. This is the most basic term of mutual fund. Like, if there is a series of lectures that has to happen on mutual fund learnings, this would be covered in the first class itself, right?
Absolutely.
And imagine these people are selling mutual funds. How would they know what is open-ended, closed-ended? How would they know what is active or passive? How would they know whether what is small cap or large cap? How would they know what the difference is?
In fact, the level of awareness, Kanan, my experience is mutual fund or SIP may be different. That's the saddest part.
Exactly.
I was like,
exactly.
wow.
Exactly. That has happened with a very learned friend of mine who is very great at his field. He's an engineer and he's working in the Middle East currently. He said, he told me, Kanan, ये mutual fund बड़ा risky होता है. SIP मेरे को कोई अच्छी सी बता दे. So the root cause of all of this problem is awareness at customers' end. Like, there's no financial literacy. This is a basic life skill that should be taught in our schools, but unfortunately it is not. Something has to be fixed. I think if this starts, financial literacy is taken up seriously by schools, then we won't have this problem at a very, very big level as it is today. Absolutely. Of course, it will still persist. It persists.
But at least you make an effort. An effort
yes,
is made.
90%, 80% of it can get solved if we start teaching students right from, say, third or the fourth standard and so on. It's pretty necessary, like we just spoke about it.
Absolutely. In fact, I had one of my guests, Dr. K.S. Rao, who is ex Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. He used to go in these college and universities, imparting information about mutual funds. And one of the biggest craze, as I'm sure you are across, is youth who are investing into FNO, right? And then they had come across a university somewhere in Telangana where the student was almost on the verge of committing suicide because he'd lost all his money. And that's when Dr. Rao said, "Aapka to future bhi nahi hai, and aapko option bhi nahi hai." That's the level of unfortunate part. And I think that's another area which you guys must, focus on in the coming days and weeks, where financial literacy is an absolute given. And another guest on my show, whom you all interviewed, Neil Borate, who takes a lot of pain to visit these colleges and as much talk in their language. Because to that extent, social media, as you know, is also playing its own, role, of course, in a positive way, but definitely also in a negative way, especially the FIRE concepts, right? Which probably may not apply to anyone and everyone, right? But yeah, I think that's what it is. But you guys have done an amazing effort. At least you've taken that one big right step, to bring this out to the audiences. And at least now it's been talked about and the amazing feedback that you guys have received. Kanan and Batul, thank you so much for being with me on this podcast, The Sound of Money. And I think all the very, very best to you for the kind of initiatives and efforts you've taken. I'm sure it will go a long way in making Indians aware, more importantly, from the financial aspects of it. As India grows, it's equally important that we have the right checks and balances and the governance around it. Hopefully, and I'm very sure that definitely the regulators listen and come up with something, and you guys make that path-breaking effort there. Thank you once again for being on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And well, with that, we come to the end of this episode of The Sound of Money with me, Santosh Sirur, my guests Kanan and Batul Kapasi. Thank you once again for joining on The Sound of Money. Take care.